What famous person didn't deserve all the hate that they got? The guy who played Kid Anakin, he was bullied so hard that it ruined all the love he had for Star Wars. A dingo ate me baby. Parents of Azaria were ridiculed and hounded by the press, and the grieving mother's statement became a pop culture reference. They were accused of murdering their child. Many years later, it was finally proven that a dingo had, in fact, eaten their baby. Rebecca Black got roasted hard at 14 years old. Fourth song Friday. Patrice Wilson was the producer and got paid by both Black's mom and a good chunk of the proceeds, but he flew under the radar from the abuse. Granted, it's a dumb song, but the hatred was immense for a 14-year-old kid. Ignaz Philip Semmelweis was a Hungarian physician and scientist, described as the savior of mothers. He proposed the practice of washing hands with chlorinated lime solutions in 1847 while working in Vienna General Hospital's first obstetrical clinic, where doctors' wards had 3 times the mortality of midwives' wards. Some doctors were offended at the suggestion that they should wash their hands and mocked him for it. In 1865, he allegedly suffered a nervous breakdown and was committed to an asylum by his colleagues. In the asylum, he was beaten by the guards. He died 14 days later from a gangrenous wound on his right hand that may have been caused by the beating. Findings earned widespread acceptance only years after his death, when Louis Pasteur confirmed the germ theory. The hot coffee McDonald's lady. The story that Ehud heard and believed for years was that some woman burned her tongue a little and sued McDonald's for not marking clearly that their coffee was hot, when the reality was that McDonald's raised the temperature of their coffee way higher than normal. It spilled on her when getting it in the drive-thru, and her burns were horrifically severe and she needed skin grafts. She was suing for so much because it literally how much her medical bills cost. But so many people ridiculed her and the case for years. Edit. People calling me out for saying, higher than boiling point. I just meant that it was really hot. Oedipus. He didn't know it was his mother until after he had slept with her. Then he blinded himself because he was so disgusted by what he'd done. But thanks to Freud, everyone associates him with wanting to bone your mother. Not fair. I always felt bad for him. Salieri. Pretty chill dude. Mozart's biggest supporter. Lent him his librettista so he could write Figaro. Took care of Mozart's kid after he passed away. Sinead O'Connor. Tried to expose the abuse from the churches and pretty much lost her career. People used her as a punching bag at the time, but nobody ever apologized to her. Corey Feldman over his comments about childhood sexual abuse in Hollywood. Barbara Walters treated him like hit and basically told the world he was a liar. Honestly, Britney Spears. The way we treated her after the breakdown is downright sad. The fact that more people don't crack under the pressure she was going through baffles me. Imagine your life televised almost 24/7 and you couldn't even feel sure that you had privacy in your own home. Not even gonna get into the conservatorship. Really did her dirty. Regardless of what you think about the music, she deserved and deserves to be treated with more respect than she got. Monica Lewinsky. Y'all probably too young to remember when Keanu Reeves was a late-night punchline for years. In the 90s, every reference to the man was about how stupid he seemed. Janet Jackson. A dude rips off part of her costume and she gets cancelled? Also, it's a titty, why the uproar? Itties are great. Natasha Kampusch. She was kidnapped in Vienna, Austria on her way to school when she was 8 years old and held captive in a secret bunker for 10 years. She managed to escape and her abuser killed himself the same day. Sadly, the public seems to hate her because she refused to talk publicly about the details of her sexual abuse. Michael Phelps. Emo. He could have denied that picture of him smoking marijuana was actually him since it was unclear. At the end of the day, he didn't deny it and lost some serious endorsements if I remember right. Not a big deal. Dixie Chicks. All the child stars that went off the rails. They didn't ask for fame. Lindsay Lohan overworked and pimped out by her parents. Paris Hilton's ex sold Revenge Orn to a legit publisher and got away with it. She somehow got treated as if she was responsible. I won't forget a comment I saw here on Reddit a while ago that said, "We all owe that LEAVEBRITNEY alone guy an apology." Tara Reid. She did not drive drunk. She did not kill anybody with her car. She did not get arrested. She partied a lot and her oob fell out, that's it. Also, if memory serves, she was treated horribly by Carson Daly. Brendan Fraser. After the trailer for The Whale was released, the fat acceptance movement had a go at them. Fat activists went on and on about how fatphobic it supposedly was that he was wearing a fat suit instead of gaining the weight for the role. They tried to cancel the movie and said that as he was a small fat, he shouldn't have played a role that was made for a super fat actor. The way I see it, Brendan Fraser is one of the few unproblematic celebrities who got the opportunity to make a comeback after years of not acting. He made this comeback after being open about being a victim of abuse, and he doesn't deserve to be welcomed with more hate and more abuse, especially from people who could make the choice to change themselves instead of moaning out everyone who happens to be slimmer than them. Richard Jewell, Pee Wee Herman, Anna Nicole Smith, Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, Amanda Bynes, Eartha Kitt. What's the most ridiculous NSFW thing you've ever seen someone do in public? To follow a common theme, I was giving a horse-drawn carriage tour of nightlife in Austin, TX, and had to insist at least 3 times that a kind lady get up off the floor of the carriage and no thave her head under a blanket on the man's lap. I eventually had to kick them out because that girl was really committed. I was sitting having a beer outside in the Gaslamp district and watched a drop-dead gorgeous blonde having an argument with her boyfriend, and for some reason she stripped off her dress, handed it to him, and strutted naked down past us as the boyfriend lost his odd mind. I am guessing it was a breaking point or something, where he was telling her what to wear or something, and she went, "You want it? Here you go." She was brilliant and walked down like she was going down a catwalk, high heels, clasp bag, and nothing but a smile. My friend and I raised a toast as she passed, turned the corner and was gone. One of my better beer stories. When riding my bike through the woods in a very popular park, I caught one guy lips deep in Anotherman's SS hole. They got up to chase me, but I was on my bike, so I got away. I was around 13 and riding on a trail. I honestly don't recall ever seeing Public X, but when I was a teenager I watched a goth girl walk another goth girl down an extremely busy street in my city's bar district on a leash and collar, and it stuck with me for close to 30 years. Watched on CCTV. I work in a shopping mall. Old mate stripped off his clothes, took a dump behind compactor and wiped his RSE with his hat. Worse, he left his bag after getting clothed. Inside his bag was a *ok ring, lube and a *ildo, and his ID. Shopping malls are crazy. Someone having drunken X in the Holocaust Memorial. Someone was making out at a party, and he got his hand down his GF pants fingering her before we could get them to stop. Someone reminded them Fathy were putting on a show in the middle of the party, and they both had family there. They took it somewhere more private after that. There's this couple that caused a disturbing scene in the hotel I was having a meeting. So, after the ambulance and cops were coming, etc. Finally I got the story. The boy threatened the girl to post their X videos online if she doesn't want to have *X with him that night. After they did it, he kept posting it anyway, sharing it with some group. The girl just cut his ick off. An ambulance was called. Police were called. The girl went to jail. The boy didn't make it for losing too much blood. So I was quite traumatized to see a scene where there were people with blood all over their clothes. I saw a dude getting head next to a McDonald's drive-thru. Gave him the thumbs up after I got my food and drove away. My neighbors are ucking in our community pool like right now, 2 a.m. What non-political opinion gives away someone's politics? People don't want to work anymore. Their disposition towards poor people typically says quite a bit. You can't say anything anymore. If you say, "I would never go to this or that city," you're a right-winger. If you say, "I would never go to this or that state," you're on the left. Ball sack hanging on the back of a pickup. People just need to stop complaining. The words, "I am a good Christian," or any variation thereof. Edit. Well, color me surprised. I didn't expect that attention. Whatever anyone posts here could be a pretty strong indicator of who they disagree with. Human-caused climate change is a serious problem. In the US, this separates Republicans from Democrats more than any other issue, even guns, abortion, etc. Source: Pew Research Center, 2019. What's the most embarrassing NSFW thing that's ever happened to you in public? Orthopedist walks into the operating room and takes a look at the screen which shows the patient's right leg with multiple fractures. Seconds later he says out loud, "How the UCK are we going to fix that?" Everyone in the room falls silent and turns their gaze to the orthopedist, and the anesthetizer whispers, "He's in spinal anesthesia." The orthopedist's eyes widen for a moment. He clears his throat and says loudly, "We'll make a leg out of this yet." Scalpel number 10 please. When I was 6 years old I was super skinny. My parents enrolled me in a judo class, and after about a month or so of practice, the parents were all invited to a judo competition. Before things started, one of the instructors was demonstrating a basic flipping someone over the back technique. I was chosen to be the one by the instructor. When the instructor demonstrated the flip, my judo pants went flying off into the spectators, leaving me laying on the mat in just my tightly whities. I was at a gig. The band playing was called Decapitated. One guy the first met that night decided to crowd surf me. It went wrong. I began to fall. My glasses flew off into the abyss. He grabbed my t-shirt and it tore in two. Then people tried to catch me by grabbing my jeans. Then fell down along with my underwear to my ankles. I was on blind and naked. I saw a bad SS documentary on bears. There was a segment about this black bear that had mange and they were trying to save it. They shaved all its fur off and it looked fucking insane. Looked like a monster tbh. Anyways, flash forward to Thanksgiving. My whole family is sitting around a new projector that we hooked up in the living room, sharing funny videos and pictures and having a good ol ha ha time. My grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, sisters, uncles, everyone is present. I'm like, hey, I got a good one I think you guys will think is interesting. So on the ucking projector in front of my whole family I type, naked shaved bears, into the Google search, on an 88 feet projector. Ucking God that day haunts me every time I my eyes at night. I was performing in a play, and had a very quick costume change off stage and had like 0.90 seconds to change these Victorian-style dresses. So my bestie was also in the show, and he was off stage, waiting with the costume so I could get into the new dress, get it zipped up, and we walk out together. This dress was an open and low neckline and I could not wear a bra with it. So I was basically nude while changing backstage. That part wasn't too bad, and he was the only one who got the full shot, and he was gay and we'd known each other 20 years, so it was all good in that aspect. The my takeaway with this: no bra. However, he had forgotten to completely hook the sides that required being cinched up. So we go on stage. Do the dinner scene. Everything great. The dinner scene ends up turning into a chase scene with all characters at the table running around chasing each other. I slip in front of the table, hitting the stage and sliding on my stomach, facing the audience. And my oobs had both fallen right out, in front of the audience. It was easier not to see my asterisk oobs, they came right the hell out. I'm splayed out, and before I realize what's happened, I stand up and see, oh hey, there's my asterisk oobs on the wrong side of my costume. My bestie comes over and covers me and we get me fixed fairly quickly. The fall, my oob show, and the fix probably happened within 20 seconds total, it just felt like hours. He turns to the audience and says, folks, you definitely got your money's worth tonight. Wore a costume to a huge Halloween party one year that included an ill-fitting G-string. At some point, my awl slipped out of the pouch and I was too intoxicated to notice. Spent a good portion of the party walking around cluelessly exposed before someone eventually told me. Opened up my laptop in the school library to do some homework. Turns out I had not closed the orn that I was watching the night before. Didn't have headphones in, so the noise of a chick getting absolutely railed played through the speakers. When I was 13, I opened my laptop on a Caltrain and other people were around me and my family. As soon as I opened it, the screensaver was an NSFW, pretty tame NSFW pic that I set as a screensaver. Immediately shut it closed and turned around to see if anyone saw it. An old lady had a mortified look on her face, but I turned back around fast. Use repressed memories. Thanks a lot, op. When I was like 13, a folklore dance group I was a part of were touring abroad. While in a hotel, I was taking a shower in my room's bathroom when I heard a bunch of giggles from the other side of the door. I thought those were just the other members of the ensemble, all kids like me, messing around in the hallway of our room, but when I exited the bathroom, I discovered that they have been peeping on me, all laughing hysterically. You can imagine that's a pretty heavy blow for a teenager, so I burst into tears from rage and betrayal, and the atmosphere in the bus for rest of the road trip was pretty ucking awkward.